Matters in the marriage. Let's talk about it. Matters in the marriage. Let's talk about it. By Dr. Christiana Akede. Let's talk about it.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Matters in Marriage, December edition. We are so grateful to God for giving us the opportunity to come to you live again. We thank God for what God is doing in our lives, for keeping us up until this moment. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you for all the wonderful feedback we've been receiving from people who've been watching and being blessed through this this discussion that we have on marriage. Like I normally say, it's not that we are sitting here being perfect, like we have everything all together, but we are here to just share with you our journey, our experiences, some of these little nuggets that can help you in your relationship. I know marriage is something that is very big. A lot of people have been burnt, a lot of people have been built, a lot of frustration, some have been regretted, some have even lost their life through this process of being married. So we're here this morning, this afternoon, wherever you're watching around the world, to just share some experiences with you that will help you along the way. Somebody once said marriage is not a sprint, it's a marathon. When you get into it, no matter how you prepare, no matter the counseling and everything, no matter the planning, no matter the dreams, somebody once says, like, you close your eyes entering into a marriage and then suddenly your eyes is open and it's like, okay, what do I do? The purpose of Matters in Marriage is for us to just help you navigate some of the challenging questions that you may be having in your relationship. Today, by the special grace of God, I have a very wonderful couple on the couch. They're going to be sharing their experiences with us. It's going to be great. I already have the vibe that this is going to be awesome. So please get your questions ready. Send in your questions. We're going to have time to address your questions. And by the grace of God, at the end, we're going to be able to pray for your marriage, pray for you that God will bless your marriage, especially this season of celebrating the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. Yes. We know that marriage was one of the comparison with describing the relationship of the church and Christ. Yes. It says it's a mystery. So marriage in itself, by Bible definition, is a mystery. Nice. So we learn every day. We unlearn every day. We relearn every day until we are able to get to that point which God has ordained for us. I have with me today a wonderful family, a wonderful couple. They're going to tell their story. They're going to tell us their journey. They're going to share their ups, their downs, their challenges, and how God has been helping them to navigate through their relationship. Sister Renda and Brother Joel Blacketts, they are here with us. Welcome to Matters in Marriage.
All right, amen.
Thank
you so much, Dr. Christina.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Amen.
We're excited.
Pastor Tom.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
Oh.
We, in 1,000 years, didn't ever dream that we would be the ones giving marriage advice.
In 1,000 years.
In 1,000 years.
This is not part of our plan.
Oh.
God
this is all God's
plan.
Yes.
It's in Him that we live and move and have our being. So,
absolutely.
Hey, if the opportunity exists that we could help one person.
Mm-hmm.
One person.
Yeah.
We will jump on that opportunity. So
thank you.
Today we just our prayer is that we help one.
Yes.
Yes.
Hopefully you are that one.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amen.
Oh wow! You want to say something?
Yes. I want to say thank you guys for inviting us to talk about this because, like I mentioned to you earlier, in the conversation, this is not a topic that's widely known or talked about. So marriage does matter, and we are so blessed to be able to share our story with the world. And like my husband said, if we can just touch one person through our story, through our struggles, to everything that God has brought us to where we are today, we are so happy and blessed to be here to share. Oh,
thank you so much. Thank you for accepting our invitation. So let's get started. Okay. how did the two of you meet, and how long ago was that?
Do you want his version or my version?
I think we're gonna do two. We're gonna do both versions, cause that.
Why?
No. Then we don't want to take a while, but we still want to do the two versions. Okay.
All right. You like,
All right. So way back in 1999, I was interning at the Department of Health as a student intern. And one day I'm leaving work and I'm rushing out the door because I forgot my Metro Pass. And I had to turn around and come back into the building. And for those who doesn't know, Department of Health, it used to be like the airport before 9/11. So security is tight. You have to go through the belt, put your bag, scan, all this other kind of nonsense. So as in my rushing to get my badge, I'm putting my bag on the belt. He was working as a security guard at the time in the building. And I'm rushing in and he says, I looked up and I saw him. I never saw him. I was in the building for like almost 3 months already and I didn't see him. And I'm rushing in and I saw him and I said, oh, that guy's cute. And went about my business. And as I'm approaching the elevator to go to my office, he goes, excuse me, ma'am. And I turn around and I said, I hope this guy did not realize I'm looking at him. And he says, you left your bag on the belt. So flushed with embarrassment, I was turned around, got my bag. I left it at that, and I was gone. The very next morning, I come into work, and he's like, hey, don't leave your bag on the belt. And I was like, oh my goodness. And that's my version.
so my version of the same story,
right?
You know, without contradiction. Yes, she's coming in and she puts her bag on the belt. I run the bag and she's looking at me the whole time, even before she puts the bag on the belt. And it's like she's in slow motion. And she's like, eye lock, right? And
I was.
I'm looking at her and I'm like, what's going on? You know, and then she's like, eye locked, and she puts the stuff on the belt and she's walking around and she's like, her eyes are glued and her body is moving. I'm being honest.
Okay.
Her eyes are locked, but her body's going around the belt. She turns. I'm looking and I said, okay. Nobody has ever looked at me that way before. And so that registers in my mind.
Oh, wow.
And she gets around and she's still looking and she just continues to walk off and the bag is on the belt. So I said, excuse me, ma'am, you left your bag on the belt. And then that's when she snapped out of it like, oh.
Yes, I did.
And she ran back real quick and she grabbed the bag and she ran off and I was like, wow. So something my mother had always told me, she always said, 'cause my mother raised 4 boys. And something that came back to me was she was like, you know what? When it's come time to choose a spouse, don't pay too much attention to the one you love. Look at the one that loves you. And because I never saw that look, I had to see if there was anything else. Yes. So the next day when I saw her, I was like, excuse me, don't leave your bag on the belt.
So that's like the conversation starter.
That was the conversation starter.
Yes.
But we didn't see each other. We'll see each other in passing. I've never saw him in the building before that day, and I was just ending my internship. And he saw me and he said, so are you a student in the building? And I said, yes. So I was going to Morgan State University at the time. So he said, well, I guess if I want to see you again, I'll have to come all the way to Baltimore, huh? And I said, yeah, pretty much. But then I got home and I told my twin sister, I have a twin sister, and I told her, I said, man, I met this guy at work and I said, he is fine. So she's like, you're there for an internship, pump the brakes, finish your internship, and get on with your business. And the next day I was leaving for my internship was coming to an end, and I saw him and he came up to me and he's like, here's my phone number. So he gives me his phone number and he said, well, let me officially introduce myself. He says, hi, my name is Joel. I'm 26. I'm looking for a wife. Are you it?
Straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
What?
We're not wasting time. At this point, I'm 26. My mother's asking for grandbabies. That's why I'm 6.
So I said, I'm not it, but
that was your response.
We can be friends.
And
we left it at that. And then a year later, I came back as an intern again in the building. We stayed in contact. We talked on the phone every now and then. I think we both moved on. We had relationships. And then I came back to work in that building, and coincidentally, both of our relationships ended. So I don't think we ever officially decided that we were going to date or go out or anything. We just started hanging out, and we went from there. That was our beginning. We became Rhonda and Joelle that 2000 year 2000.
So how it went down was, of course, she comes back. I see her. I'm at the end of. I'm at the end of my relationship, and she's at the end of a relationship. So, so I approached her, and then she's like, "Hey, we're West Indians. I'm from St. Lucia. She's from Guyana.
Okay.
The West Indian Festival usually happen in DC.
June.
In June.
Yes.
So she's like, "Hey, what's your plans? DC Carnival is this weekend. Are you going?" Now, by then, I was getting more serious with my relationship with God. So I was just kind of being, I want to say, I'm in church, but I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yes.
Right? So I'm trying to commit because, so the girlfriend before her was a Nigerian young lady who was very faithful in her walk. So I was trying to step up. So that didn't work out. So like I said, so now I'm single, she's single, and she goes, DC Carnival is this weekend. You going? And I'm like, nah, I gotta go to church. It's Saturday. Because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, so I gotta go to church. It's Saturday.
And I said, "You're an Adventist?" Because in my part of the world, Adventists are miles apart from other religions.
Absolutely.
Very conservative, very strict. And I said, well, he was kind of shocked that I called him out. And so I said, okay, well, I guess I'll see you after sunset, because I know their Sabbath ends at sunset, and they can do whatever it is they want to partake in after sunset. So I said, fine, let's do it. I guess I'll see you after sunset.
Okay.
And no lie, 3:00, I'm getting ready to go on the parkway with my friends, and I get a call from him. "You left for Carnival yet?" And I'm like, "Sir,
Church
it's summertime. It's summertime. The sun don't set till 9:00. But this is how I knew this guy was interested in me. So he was like, "Nope, I will meet you on the parkway with your friends." And I said, "Oh my God, what is happening?" But internally, what he didn't know was I was looking for an Adventist church. So I grew up Presbyterian, but the lady that helped raise me in Guyana, she was Adventist.
Okay.
And so I would go to church with her on Sabbaths, and I'll go to church with my grandfather, who was a Presbyterian preacher, on Sundays. So I lived in both worlds.
Both worlds.
And when I left Guyana to migrate here, my grandfather told me there's going to come a day when you have to choose. I have no idea what that meant at that time. And then, so I come up, my mom, she's not going to church anymore. She lived here before we did. I come up and she was not going to church. And I was like, "Mom, Grandpa said we have to stay in church." And she's like, okay, she finds some of her friends that were going to church, and she just shoved us with them. So I would go to all of these churches. Nothing felt like what worship was for me. And I would write home to my grandfather, and I would be like, "Grandpa, this is not it. I don't understand." So one morning I'm praying, and I get up and I ask my mom, I said, "Is there an Adventist church? Because I'm new here. I don't know." And she's like, "What are you asking about Adventist church for? I don't know." So I'm praying in my walk. I'm still going to church on Sundays, and I'm praying. I'm like, "Lord, send me the right church to feel like home," pretty much. And then here he comes.
Oh.
And I'm like, so it was a shock to me when he says that he has to go to church. And I'm like, "You're an Adventist?" And he was like, "Yeah." So the very next week, I'm like, "Can I come to your church?"
So one box check.
Let's go back
check.
Let's go back to that Saturday. So that Saturday, I went to church.
Yes, he did go to church.
After church, I mean, I was the first person. I made sure I parked strategically so that I'm not get caught in the
traffic. In the traffic.
Yeah.
Man, as soon as the pastor said a
Grace
benediction was done,
no. Oh wow!
This is kind of I had just gotten into cell phones, so the first thing I did is I called her and, hey, you left for Carnival yet? No. Okay, I'm on my way. And she's like, what?
I'm like, it's not sunset yet. What are you doing? I'm like, you heathen.
That is so beautiful. So
I
wow.
could hang out with her that day, and we had a wonderful time.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that you met some of my friends, and then I met some of his friends that he was still of the world, and we were up there, and one of his friends said to him, I was with my college roommate at the time. We took her to Carnival. And one of his friends said to him, I think it was Tony, said to you, so Joel, which one of these beautiful young ladies,
Oh, wow.
And he just comes behind me and hugged me and he's like, this one. And I was like, oh, so this is happening.
Beautiful.
And then the next day we continued the weekend. We went to all the festivities. Yes, and we have
Praise God.
Been together
Oh,
ever since.
wow. Beautiful. I mean, just looking back and how far you guys have come, it looks to me like your faith really plays a great role in your relationship. So talk to me about that. Because when a time and an age where faith is becoming something that is being separated from marriage.
Yes.
And so we have a lot of questions. We have so many definitions of marriage now and all of those things. So talk to me. The Bible says, for example, man, love your wife. How does that apply to you? How are you demonstrating that?
So so let's just go back with the question of faith. A marriage is a faith walk.
Oh,
It's a faith walk.
It's a faith walk.
As you grow in your faith, the same way you could grow in your marriage.
Thank you. Please say it again.
As you grow in your faith,
Yes.
the same way you will grow with your marriage. Or in your marriage. So to try to separate the two, it could work, but you're really you're decreasing the level of success you're gonna have.
Ooh. Okay.
Faith. The Bible says, "Do not be unequally yoked among brethren." Right? I'm not sure if I'm even paraphrasing that right because I didn't want to make this too biblical.
Go ahead.
So it's like when I met her and she, just checking out her experience and her background and stuff, and she told me she was Presbyterian. The first thing that came to my mind was what I was being taught as a child, and look at how I would have missed the opportunity. It's what I've been taught as a child, like, hey, you cannot marry outside your religion because that's being unequally yoked. So in other words, because she was brought up Presbyterian, I would have left her on the table. You see what I'm saying?
So what I'm hearing now is, go ahead.
What I'm saying is, if you take the scripture out of context, it says among believers. She's a believer. I'm a believer. So that aspect of the faith now was like, okay, well, she's a believer.
You're a believer.
Let's see where we could meet.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
And so now the second part of your question
yes,
was the Bible says husbands love your wife.
Yes.
So in loving her now, that to me means that I have to pay attention. See,
attention to her.
I remember coming up and just hanging around and getting advice on relationship. And one of my friends in college, Irving Ward, I consider, this boy was so practical and his common sense was just like so. But he told me one time, I was dating a Ethiopian young lady and things was not going the way I wanted it to go. Irvin said to me, hey man, you know what? The crazy thing is, it's like we try as kids, because then of course we're 18, 19. We are trying to figure out what women like. And Irvin says, you can try to figure out what women like. You have to figure out what the woman you're with likes.
Yes.
In other words, you have to
pay attention.
Compartmentalize it. Pay attention to the woman you're with. What she likes is not what you might like. So if I'm dating her, I can't be concerned about what you like. I have to be about what she likes.
Absolutely.
You know. So part of loving her means I'm really tuned in to what she likes. Now, it might turn another woman off because everybody's different.
Absolutely.
It might not be what I like. And half the time is when I first met her, one of the things is she liked bowling, and I never bowled a day in my life. So yes, I got beat many times. But that's what she liked. So we did that. So bringing the two together.
Yes.
You know, you have to bring the faith part and the love part together.
Yes.
And I'm sure as we go, we could.
Yes.
We're gonna expand on
absolutely. I want to quickly jump in and just ask you, because I want to be done with the faith before we go into other matters.
Yes.
So the Bible says, women, submit to your husband. For me personally, that was a struggle. That word submit from the jump puts me off. Because I was raised by a single woman, a single mother. And I saw how, I didn't witness how my dad treated my mom, but she told us a little bit. And of course, he left. So I have this bias in my heart. Like, if I meet any man, as soon as this word submission comes up, or as soon as I see this person, first of all, I don't want to submit.
Of course.
I don't want to submit. Submission is not in my dictionary. By the grace of God, back then, I was a little bit successful. I have little change. I have little money. So I always say to myself, I'm going to spoil me. So that when that person comes, there's nothing for him to offer to me that will make me want to submit to him. So he will rather just take me as I am, or he be gone. So I don't know, in your own experience, does that word submit, what does it do to you? Because we're going to be talking about it. Because that's one of those things that is out there where we say, oh, woman, da. But let me hear your experience.
So for me, the word submit and submission, just submit and submission, like you said, I agree. I was not raised to submit to anybody. Now, I was raised by my grandparents. So I didn't have that experience where I saw mom and dad do this. Or
there you go.
I saw auntie or uncle do that.
This. Yeah.
I just went on what my experience was growing up. So when it comes to the Bible and when it comes to our marriage and it comes to let me submit, ladies submit, or wives submit to your husband, I took that out of a different context and I based that on my experience. And like he said, with our faith, from what I raised, or how I was raised, to me to submit means that I had to, again, listen to his needs. Listen to what our faith put into our family. We both sat down and decided if we were going to go the marriage route, this is what's going to happen. For example, when we got married, if we were going through counseling, we already decided that divorce was not an option in our marriage.
Absolutely.
Took it off. It's not an option. So that brings me to the point of what am I going to give you in this marriage? And that's what submission is. What am I giving? What am I bringing to this marriage? And what are you giving me?
Because it's both ways.
Because it's both ways.
Yeah.
So for me, submission is not even in my vocabulary either. I don't add air to it. I just follow the vibe of our relationship. What we decided. This is how we want our marriage to be.
To work.
Yes, to work.
So,
excellent.
In other words, it's natural.
It's natural, yes.
I like to say that before sin, submission was not an issue.
True.
It was after sin, when selfishness, fear, and doubt crept in. That's when submission became an issue. If submission was an issue before sin, Adam would never have submitted to eating that apple.
Oh my gosh. So we're not going to go down.
You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying that's how my mind is wired. But because they submitted to each other. And I think what people do is because the scripture says that the woman part is to submit. They think the man does not have
any responsibility.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But if she trusts your leadership, if she trusts the direction you're taking her, the direction you're taking her family, there's no problem with her natural instinct to follow her leader to kick back in.
Thank you. So, I think about 3 weeks ago, one of my daughter was sharing with me how her friend is dating a boy, and the boy, first thing is, all I want is a woman that's going to submit to me.
Oh.
All I want is a boy that's going to a lady that's going to submit to me. If you're not going to submit to me, then we can't go far. And I'm like, hey, that's a red flag right there.
That's a red flag.
Talk about that. These days where we'll have guys having this mindset, like I'm going into this relationship. This woman have to be subservient to me or submit to me or something. Let's address it. Let's talk about it.
Let's put it on the table.
Yes.
So it's like I have 2 daughters. Right? One is 13, so you know where we are. The other one is 10. I would never advise them to submit to somebody who's going the wrong way. I could submit to you based on what the scripture says or what my value system says. Because a lot of people don't want to use scripture. So if we have the same values, then I could submit to you. If we go in the right direction or the same direction, I won't tell my daughter go submit to a little Johnny who smokes weed down the street. What does that look like? As a dad, as a man.
Yeah.
Right? And as a man, you have to think, how would you advise your daughters? What does submission look like when it's your daughter's turn to submit? Do you want them to submit to a man like you? You know?
But we also have to look at where they're taking submission from today.
Ooh, the source.
Where's the source that the submission is coming from? What are they seeing? They have social media. They have movies.
That's right.
Nobody is going back to Bible submission and what Bible submission really means. Everybody is the source out there today for them is, your friend is like, okay, I saw this on TV or I saw this on a reality show.
There
like,
you go.
Let me do this.
Let me do this.
Let me do this. This is what submission is. So as parents, and, of course, they may not have that parent or parents in the household to say, no, Johnny, this is what submission is from the Bible stance. This is where the source of marriage comes from. So if you understand what submission is, because totally he didn't understand what submission is.
Absolutely.
What it means to submit.
Yeah.
And this young lady now, she is just like, she have an idea what submission is, and she's like, oh no, I'm not down for that.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
Submission is not bringing somebody into indentured slavery.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's not to servitude. No.
Yes.
That's nothing to do with it. It is to serve each other, each other's needs, physical, emotional, mental,
spiritual, psychologically,
serve each other's needs. So yes, so for the young guy, what submission is supposed to look like to you is, how is she helping me grow?
That's if you acknowledge that you need to grow.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because a person who doesn't acknowledge that there's a need to grow will not see a value that somebody else is bringing to their life for them to be able to grow.
Amen. This is facts. This is facts. So if we go back to that scripture, it says, husbands love your wife
as Christ loved the church. Yes.
So much so
that he
gave. He gave his life for it. Right? So it's like you're asking a woman to submit to that kind of leadership, where now giving your life is not literally, we don't have to say literally get your head cut off.
No.
But symbolically.
Yes.
To give your life means you're vested in her interest also. Right? You're interested in her well-being.
Yes.
So much so that, hey, if a bill collector calls that house, guess who's answering that call? I'm answering that call.
Yes.
You're not going to call up here and stress my wife.
Thank you.
So now she could literally turn over these reins to you, because she knows and trusts that from a godly and from a value standpoint that you got her back. And that's
Absolutely.
all it is. So if you got her back, she has no problem having your back.
And for me personally also, submission doesn't mean the woman doesn't have a voice.
Exactly.
Because I say God gave women the brain. We have the discernment. We know things. We have to complement each other.
Yes.
And most time also we have to compromise, because marriage is both ways.
It's both ways. It's both ways.
And this is how God kind of frame it. When people get into marriage, after leaving the altar of their wedding to live the rest of their life, a lot of time there's no guidance. A lot of time there is, like you said, it's social media. It's what is happening in my family, in my friend's house. It's what my family is telling me. That's why we have these matters in marriage. We want to talk about things that will help the marriage to be strong,
exactly,
to grow together. I want to ask you, how the Bible talks about a principle of becoming one. So this is you coming from this angle. This is her coming from, with her background, with her experiences, with her needs, with her belief, with everything. And here is you also from this angle with everything. And the Bible said the two of you should become one. It's a process.
It's a process.
It's a journey. It's not something that you can be like, it's over time. So talk to me about this process of becoming one.
Well, for me,
let's start with you.
Yes, so for me, I would say when we got into the relationship, right? And we decided that we were going to be Rhonda and Joel. And eventually down the road, marriage is going to come. The first thing that we set aside was our, like you said, we had to be equally yoked. So our foundation was our faith. I decided that I had to get on the same page. He's been an Adventist all his life, and he was just coming back into the church. And I said to myself, well, Rhonda, where are you at this point in your walk with God? Because I saw how his faith was strong. And I said, okay, you know, it's rough that you grew up all your life in the church, and then here you are wilding out in the world, but you still have that foundation to say, Jesus is the head of my life. Let me walk back into faith. All right. Walk back into my faith. So for us becoming one, it started with our faith. Once we got on the same page as our faith, to me, it was just a slow process getting to where, what is our life going to look like? And it took us sitting down together. So this talks
about vision.
Yes, vision.
Yes.
So it took us sitting down together saying, this is Rhonda and Joel. What does Rhonda and Joel represent? What do we want ourselves to represent?
So there is a vision.
It's a vision.
And it came from both.
Yes.
It came from the discussion, communication between the two. So in becoming one, she talks about communication and division. Any other thing?
So a lot of people go into marriage thinking marriage is 50-50.
And
that's the first mistake. Because simple math, you know, somebody used
50-50, 100.
50-50 is 100. But if you give me 50 and I give my 50, who's getting your other 50? So marriage has to be 100, 100. You have to give it your all, right? It's not going to be easy. People come to me and say, hey, man, you know, your marriage, man, you guys look like y'all got it together.
Yes.
And I always like to use metaphors. And I always use the metaphor of a duck. I say on the water, the duck is just bobbing along, chilling. But under the water, he's paddling behind off trying to, you know. And that's the same thing with our marriage. You got to put in the work. If you do not put the work into your marriage, it's not going to work. And like we were talking before we came on, said some people think more about what they're going to wear that day than what their marriage need that day.
Please talk about that. Talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Sure. Let's go into it.
Yeah.
What you going to wear? people plan ahead.
I have people who plan 7 days ahead of what they're going to wear.
Yes.
To the shoe, to the socks, to everything.
Laid it out.
Laid it out, yeah. Like that.
But did you say I love you today? Did you say, hey, honey, how could I show you that I love you today? What kind of, understand, okay. I remember somebody once told me, it's like, hey, actually when we were doing counseling, the question was asked, hey, to my wife, why do you want to marry this guy? And she said, oh, I love him. And they asked me, so I figured, hey,
you love her too?
Yeah. I love her. So then they asked, well, what happened when you're not in love anymore? And I was like, that's a part of marriage, that you might not be in love anymore? It's true.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
And that's when the pastor then, Pastor Johnson, Seabrook Church, what he did was he guided us to show us that the love is important, but the commitment, the commitment is just as important
as the love.
So on days when you
when love is not there,
you got to remember the
commitment,
and you got to follow on the commitment. So because I'm committed now, I got to try to work to get that love back in there.
Yes. Yes.
That is so true. Because I mean, this week somebody was sharing, like, a woman just woke up and said, my love is done with this person, and I'm done, and I'm getting out. And the conversation was, is it right to get to that point where you say, my love is done and I'm gone? Is that something? I said to myself, it's not a one-day decision. It's something that's been building up until that time. So continue.
Okay. So because they never invested the time to see what my marriage need, not only today, but what does my marriage need tomorrow. My Bible will tell you, I am not a romantic guy.
He's
Do not
not.
expect flowers.
He's not.
Did you tell her that? Because
Yes.
you remember February is going to be Valentine, right?
She tried.
Yes, I tried.
It's not my thing.
And he told me that from the very beginning. He was like, I'm not big on birthdays. I don't do Christmas. I don't travel. I said, oh, no, sir. We're going to have to try about this.
Right? So she tried.
I
But
tried.
have I ever given her flowers? Yes.
Yes.
I've given her flowers. Because I realized, you know what? That might have been a need in the marriage at that time. Was, you know what? She loves flowers, right? And I'm not into the flowers because I'm like, if flowers are supposed to represent love, why do they die?
Yes.
So I always look at
Good
flowers.
one.
And look at that.
Good one.
When he said that to me, I said, man, you got a point.
Yeah.
I said, all right, don't worry about the flowers. It's all good.
But I would look at the relationship, and like I said, focusing on the relationship, kind of like you would focus on your outfit for the day. What does my relationship need today? It might be a simple thing as, hey, you know that way that 13-year-old just talked to your wife? You need to get on that. Take care of that for her.
Oh.
And it would be, you know, what are we dealing with for that day?
For that day.
Right? And after you deal with that day, it's you do not know. It's like I read in a book. It said your body keeps score. So her body is like literally we're sleeping in the same bed together, but she just had an argument with her daughter. So how could she pay attention to my needs
you
or submit when that's on her mind? So which means her body is there, but her spirit is not. And we're talking about oneness.
Yeah.
So if her body is there and her spirit is not,
That's not oneness.
that's not oneness. You know what
So
I mean?
we gotta dress.
Let me go and discipline that teenager. Put her mind at ease. And then we could go to sleep. You know what I mean? Or it could be even, well, the bills are not paid. I'm trying to be
Practical. Yeah.
The bills are not paid, right? All right. So focusing on my marriage for that day, she is stressed out because of X. I need to take care of X today, or I need to show that I'm putting time into X, so that her mind could be at rest. And I'm saying her, but she does the same thing for me because again, we're talking about the oneness. What is my husband needs today? The same way you're thinking, what is my wife's need for the day? What does my kid needs for the day?
Yeah, and the one thing that we always do sometimes too is before we get into a conversation, we always ask each other, where's your mind?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm about to get into a conversation about money and his mind is not on money.
And my mind is always on money.
And his mind is always on money.
Somebody once said, if a man's sex is not right and his money is not right, he ain't happy. I'm telling you, that is true.
Both.
Yeah,
we're gonna get to those two too.
Yes, his favorite color is green. And what kind of green? Money. But yeah, so it comes down to that oneness. So like, if we're gonna get into a conversation, and you know, like I said, if we're talking about money, and my mind's not on money. And he's just focused on money, that conversation ain't going nowhere.
It's not. I can identify with that. Because he too is money. I am not the money. So, you're going to tell me about the bill. I'm just like, can we talk about it later? Or, what do you have to say? Right there, I'm not into money thing. I don't want to talk about money.
It's really a guy thing. It's like, guys, we focus on that because part of being a guy is making sure you're a provider.
Yes.
It's innate in our nature.
Yeah.
So if the money is not right, we not there.
Somebody said caring and sharing are two different things. Some marriage is just sharing, no caring. But an authentic marriage, there had to be sharing and caring.
Right, right.
Sharing is, I'm just paying the bill. I don't care about you.
Right, that's a roommate situation.
Exactly. Roommate situation. And there are couples who are living
as roommates.
Yes,
that's
for
true.
20, 30 years.
20, 30 years.
Oh my God.
And then wake up one day and say, I don't want this no more.
That's why we have situations now, 30 years later.
Yes.
They're saying, I'm throwing the towel. I'm done. Because somebody's been neglecting, just like you said, not planning. We put attention on so many other things except for our marriage.
Except for our
Let's
marriage.
talk about finance. We talk about men and finance. In my home, when we got married, one of our mentor, what he said is, guys, one of the things that can cause you guys to always have issue is money. He said, endeavor to keep everything together.
The money fights is real.
So we started with everything, all our account. He manages the money in the house. I don't care. He pays the bill. He does everything. All I know is if I want to spend $10, I have to be able to spend. If I want to spend $50, I'm not going to come to.
Thank you, Jesus. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just going to spend it. Yes. But everything is in one basket. But now we have situations where they have different type of arrangements. You pay for the water bill, I pay for the electricity bill, you pay for the mortgage, you take care of kids' school. Let's talk about finance in money. I know you.
Oh, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, you are the money man.
So he is the money man.
So, how finances was, I always saw how important finances was in my parents' relationship. Right? Now, my parents been married for 53 years. 53 years. And I always saw my dad at the point with the money. But truth be told, my mom was never happy.
Oh.
Because my dad could squeeze 10 cents out of one. I remember they had an argument one time because she couldn't buy panties. And I thought that's not right. You know, so I'm thinking you're looking at the example in front of you, but at the same time you got to adjust. And you're like, it's not right that she got to come to you to
I'm
ask
so happy when I hear guys
underwear.
say, I learned this from my parents.
Yes.
So that was one of the lessons I learned from my parents was, yes, the money piece is important, but you cannot be pharisaical about the money.
Pharisaical. I like that
word. When it comes to the money, you know, you have to make sure that you're on a plan, that you're on the same plan. So for us, what that looks like is, we took classes. In fact, I was taking classes when I figured, okay, look like this thing is heading towards marriage. And there's a funny story about my proposal, but I'll leave that to her. Right? Well, I started educating myself financially. And money is not about how much you make. It's something my grandfather always used to tell me. And I never saw this man borrow money for anything in his life. And he was a banana farmer. And he always say it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep.
Yes.
Right. So I grew up with all these innate things that were placed in there from growing up in the islands. You know, you don't have much, so you do as much as you can with the little that you have. What happens is what we have in Western society and in the developing world is something called lifestyle creep that a lot of people don't pay attention to. And lifestyle creep is if you have a job and you're making $30,000, every year they're gonna give you a raise in America. Thank God, that's not how it works in the rest of the world.
That's true. Absolutely.
But if you're in America, you get a raise. Well, how comes you're fine living on $30,000 this year, but next year when you get a bump to $36,000, you're still struggling?
Yeah.
You have a $6,000 your lifestyle. You stepped your lifestyle up. In other words, the clothes got a little more suave, and the shoes got a little nicer, and the car got a little nicer, and everything got a little nicer to the point where
the 6,000
is gone.
It's gone.
And now you wanting more. And now you're upset at your job because they didn't give you more. But every year they give you a raise. They even call it a lifestyle raise.
Lifestyle raise. I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lifestyle increase, right? So, but what people do is they just bump up their lifestyle. So that's called lifestyle creep. So what you have to do is eliminate lifestyle creep.
Eliminate lifestyle creep.
If you're fine today on 20, 30, 40,000, you're going to be fine next year on 20, 30, 40,000.
What about the inflation rate?
Inflation? There you go. So
I'm an accountant, so
So if the inflation rate went up 10%, you still got money left because you're not going to use your whole raise this year. So just even people spending their tax returns, and taxes are coming up. But what people are going to do is they've been living fine all year without that 500 or
5,000
from the IRS. But as soon as it hit that account,
boom,
it's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone. Just think, how long have you been working and how many tax returns you've received?
I know.
And if you had saved every one of them, how
I'll
much
be
money
a
you have
millionaire
now?
by now.
Exactly.
So your
I'm just
income,
joking.
Yes. Your income, no matter how much it is your number one tool to create wealth. And like I said, we took classes. For those online, we took a class called Financial Peace by Dave Ramsey.
Oh.
And there was other courses I took, but that one is the most down to earth one. I would recommend that one before
And it's
any of the
faith-based.
other ones that
So it appealed to us.
that I did. And like my wife said, it's faith based. It appeals
Dave
to us.
Ramsey?
Dave Ramsey,
Ramsey.
Financial Peace University. If you get a chance, jump in that, get on that, and run your money through that lens. Yeah.
Before that class, when it came to finances, when it came to money, he liked analogies, and we always used the one where we're boxers. When it came to money, we will come in the ring and we'll go ding ding, take care of the problem, go to our separate ways.
Because we're separate.
Because we were separate with the finances.
See, I grew up, like I said, with my grandfather not borrowing money. I met her. She had a credit card. She had student loans. She had car notes. Everything financed. Right? So how we took care of money? Oh, we can't buy a bottle of water. What you mean we can't buy a bottle of water? Ding, ding, ding. Okay, well, I'm going to take some of my money and buy this bottle of water, but you stop spending money on purses, and then that way you could always buy your next bottle of water. All right, problem solved. We go back to our separate corners.
Yes.
Waiting for the next round.
Until you took the class.
Until we took the class. He came home and he said, babe, here's this book. I want you to read this book. And it was a book by Dave Ramsey called Money Makeover. So I said, at this point, I was a little frustrated that we were having money fights. Because like before, we didn't have money fights. And I couldn't understand why all of a sudden we were having money fights. So I said, fine, I'll read this book. So I said, did you get a book? He said, yes, of course I got a book because we read at different speeds. So he was like, we're going to read this book together and we're going to get on the same page. So we read the book.
That's nice.
I finished the book in like 2 or 3 days. And, he was still reading because he's slow.
2 weeks.
And I'm like, okay, sir. So I said, this book said that this guy have a class. We need to take this class. He's like, yeah, I already found the class we can go to. So we took the class. And I don't know, maybe the second lesson, something popped in my head. And I was like,
okay,
this is it. This is what we needed. And then for me, because we're both faith-based people, when I saw how the class brought our faith into it, and I'm like, oh my God, he's right. God said, do this with your money. It was an easy solution.
So going forward, money.
It became a problem we could deal with without an argument. Because we were working on it out of principles. But again, look what had to happen. I had to abandon my position, and she had to abandon her position.
Becoming one.
Yes, and we had to get together on a plan that's going to work for us both.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Can you say that again? Because the thing is this. You can't hold on to your position, and she hold her to her own position.
Yes.
And you want to become one. It's still going to be a struggle.
It's still going to be a struggle.
And the fact that the two of you had to like take a class, it shows the willingness and commitment that you want this thing to work. What I've seen is a lot of time there will be problem. Somebody will see a solution. To get the other person on board becomes an issue because the other person doesn't see it as a problem, right?
All right. Yes. So here we go. So what we have is somebody saw a solution, which means they have new information.
Oh.
The other person does not have new information. And then what we tend to do, especially if it's the man that got this new information, he's going to try to push you into submission. With this new information that he just received, that you have no idea about, and you're like, oh.
So,
imagine if he had just read the book and then come home and tell me, Rhonda, we doing this class.
If I read the book and say, hey, babe, we selling your car.
Yes.
She look, what car? I said she is an island woman. So
I like the way you put it. Somebody got it. There's a problem.
It's new information.
Yes.
There's a solution. Somebody got this information for the solution to the problem. Now you have to deliver that information, that solution, tactically.
Tactically and tactfully.
And tactfully.
Yes. So you have to do that because any other way, what you're gonna do is the person's gonna put up their guard.
Yes.
Because this is new information.
Yes.
So the first thing we do when we get new information
is to push it away.
Is because as human beings, and God has it put in that we have to process. So it's like give the person some time to process, and don't just push.
Because he was the money guy in the relationship. When he got this new information, I mean, it was like Disney World. Like, he was on another high. And I'm like, calm down. I'm not there yet.
I like that. Yeah, that's why I'm sure I'll probably do the same.
I'm not there yet. So I said, let's get on this class. So with him now, he did calm down. He saw my excitement during the classroom. And then he calmly said, so do you think we can handle this?
Oh,
do you think this is something that we can do?
So that's bringing you on board, even though you've taken the class together. So it kind of tells me like you are probably still open. Even if she's not on board, you are probably still going to look for another solution.
We got to find something else.
Find something
else.
That's
not the solution again for
us.
Because again, I said, hey, what worked for everybody else might not necessarily work for you. So yes, I thought that was a good solution, but hey, it might not work for us.
So there had to be the consciousness that everything is not meant for us.
Exactly.
And
we got to figure out what works
for us.
And then you have to get around like-minded people. Because it's
you're going to get to that like your support system. Your support system in a relationship.
Within that class, we had people with our same...
Oh. Go ahead.
Yes, with our same situation, I would say. So once we got not only our faith base, once we got into our like-mindedness people and being around other couples that were going through the same thing that we were going through, it was an easy decision for us to make to say, hey, let's move forward. This is a plan that will work for both of us. And we're seeing it work for other people. So here we go. Let's do it.
Thank you. I mean, this is awesome. I'm learning. I'm really, really like learning. Yeah, I'm learning because for every one of us, we have our own language. We have what appeals to us. It's not everything that appeals to everybody that appeals to you. So you can bring us somebody else's idea and force it, and we just have to have that conversation.
Yes.
And we should have room open for the other party to be able to accommodate, digest, see if it's gonna work.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about intimacy. I've seen, I think the very first episode we had, a question came up where this person was in a relationship, and for 17 years they've been living together, and there was no intimacy whatsoever.
That's abuse. That's abuse. Go ahead.
And I had another situation where they went into this marriage, they're Christians, and so they have this abstinence and all of those things before marriage. And then when they got into marriage, they discovered that the guy is unable to perform. And he wants to keep it like that. He wants to keep it like that.
That's
like
also abuse.
That's to say, it's like, this is who I am, you married me, we're going to leave it like that. Okay, the lady's like, no, this is not what I want. I want to be active. I want to have intimacy. And so it became like a hoopla. So talk about intimacy in relationship, especially sexual intimacy.
You want to go?
No, go ahead.
Well, all right. So intimacy, like I said, a guy, if his money is not right and his sex is not right, I already said that.
You already said you did.
We got issues.
Okay.
When it comes to intimacy, intimacy, it is vital because it establishes a connection. So if the lady is saying in that case, hey, and there's medical things you could do so that you could, but if you're not interested in going down that path, then, like I said, that's why I said that's abuse. Because she's telling you, hey, this is my need, this is what I want. And you're saying,
I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care. It was an analogy I used this morning because, like I said, coming out the house before we came on, I had some friends who called me, and their discussion, their argument, their fight was about money. And I literally had to move my phone because the swear words were going crazy.
Yes.
So I had the kids in the room, so I had to hurry up and get on my earphones and stuff like that. And 1 hour later, we finally got them calm.
Yes.
Because what happened was, and I know we're talking about intimacy, but the finances came in the way. And I had to explain to them that, listen, the metaphor I used was, all right, let's say that your wife loves shoes, because mine does. And every year you buy her a size 8 pair of shoes, right? And this is how you express your love to her. Okay, well, 1 year you buy her a pair of shoes, and now she's telling you, I don't want it. It's too small. But you've always bought a size pair shoes. So now you're like, well, what's the problem? And she's trying to tell you, my feet has grown. I cannot use that shoe anymore. But you don't want it. You want to stick it on there. You're stressing yourself out.
And you're
stressing
You're
her out.
stressing me out. Yes.
You know? So it's like people grow. And as new information, you have to grow with the information that's coming into the relationship. So that's part of intimacy, is that language where things are honest and things are open. And I can say, hey, you know, this thing that you used to do, it doesn't work for me anymore.
And the other person must be receptive.
Receptive, yes.
It's kind of like Paul says, between eating meat and drinking milk. It's like you still on milk when you should be on meat. Because, well, you should have been growing. You know, if my son who is 6 is still the same height and weight, when he's 9, we have a problem somewhere.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's the same thing. But people expect the relationship to just be one size fit all. And no relationship is one size fits all. Because I could bring something up to you and the pastor, and y'all might tell me one thing, and then you go to probably some past guests, and they might tell me something else, and I might just be like, hey, you know what? This might work better, or this might look more like our situation. You know? But the thing about the intimacy part is it has to happen, especially if the other person is asking for it. You have to do what you have to do to stay healthy. If it's lose a little bit of weight, if it's make sure you take a shower before the other person gets home.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just talking. I'm being real. This
No,
is
no,
things that
please. That's the honest
you know,
truth. Yeah.
hygiene.
Yeah, hygiene.
You know, hygiene is important. You know, if he's not comfortable with your size, if she's not comfortable with your size, man, you do. I mean, I wake up every morning and I do my push-ups, I do my pull-ups. Not for her, because she really don't care, but I like to look, you know.
Good. Yeah. You have to,
Pastor will tell you, I did a 2 months raw diet. Because I looked down one time and I saw my stomach and I couldn't see my thing under my stomach. So I said, hey.
Let's get it down.
We got to get this stomach out of here. And so I did like 2 months of just raw foods. If I could cook it, I didn't eat it. So there was no rice, there was no meat. It was just vegetables, it was fruits, it was nuts, everything that I could eat raw. And yeah, the cows went, the waistline came, everything got back together, and I feel good. I feel great. And I've even seen the performance in the bedroom change. Yeah. Because it's like my performance in the bedroom is also important to me.
Yeah.
Because I want to know, like,
is it always important to men?
That's important to men. That's important to men. That's important to men.
You probably wondering, is she asking out of experience?
They say it's important. I gotta go with it.
See, I'm like, God created the woman. That became important to men. Before there was no woman, it was probably already important. That's why he said, you know what? It's not good for me to be alone. This man is looking like, yo, I got this too. What's this too for?
Thank you for bringing that into perspective. You know? That is so nice. Yeah.
His mind can go there. At times, it amazes me still. I'm just like, sir.
You have to keep it interesting. The bedroom, you have to keep the bedroom interesting, because guess what?
Thank you for bringing that.
If you don't take care of stuff in the bedroom, there's, you see it out there. There's now open marriages where people are allowed to go and I can satisfy you, you go somewhere else.
No, that's not. Thank you. No.
That's not marriage.
Yeah.
That hurts me when I see stuff like that. Because it's like, but why are you even married? And that's when you can tell people definitions of marriage. Like, no, that's not it. That's not, like, where did you get your marriage counseling
definition from?
Yes. Like, why? And I would say for me, when it comes to sex, it's like he had to really adapt to. So he was all for it, like he says. Now, as being a man, like, you have to have sex. For me, sex was not just sleeping with each other.
Yeah.
It was the feelings.
Yes.
And he couldn't get with that. He was like, what do you mean we feel?
I know. I was like, man, this is a race. First person to the finish line wins.
Don't you care about me at all? Like, I'm not, like, what am I, just here?
Yeah.
So he had to adapt.
Learn.
He had to learn.
Grow.
He had to grow.
Yeah.
To understand that sex was not just sex. It came with, like, my love language was feelings. You know, I had to be in the moment. My mind had to be there. It wasn't just physical for me.
Yeah.
It was a whole process.
Yeah.
And then once he learned that,
it got on board.
It was nothing for us. I mean, it's part of our routine.
Thank you.
My daughter saw us the other night. We were worshiping, and for some reason we were all in our room, and he was decided we were going to do family worship, and they were all laying on the bed, and I come in and there's no room on the bed, so I said, okay, move over, and he was like, no, just lay here. So we laid, and he hugged me, and my daughter goes,
there we go again.
Now, because you touched on that, I have to say it's important, especially if you have kids in a relationship. It's important for your kids to see their parents love each other. That is so important. That's the number one lesson you could teach them. There's a saying that says more is caught than taught. When kids see
more
their parents,
is caught than taught.
right? So they're looking, they're catching the vibes, they're seeing the vibes, they're watching the reactions, you know.
It's to the point where our 6-year-old the other night, our 6-year-old comes in, he is like, Dad, can you come and sleep with me? He was like, you're not going to stay the whole time. Just after I fall asleep, you can come back to your wife.
Oh, what? You were like, what?
What did he just say? He's like, yeah, Dad, when I fall asleep, you can come back to your wife. Because he knows. This is where Daddy sleeps. Dad doesn't sleep with me. He sleeps with his wife. So.
And they'll always say, hey, what? Oh, man. Hold on, let me close my eyes. You're about to give her a smoochy kiss.
But he knows when Dad's come in the house, if Dad doesn't come and kiss Mom, he will go to his dad and says, hey, you need to go smoochy kiss your wife.
You didn't kiss your wife.
You didn't kiss your wife.
Smoothie kiss, I like that.
You know, so it's important that they see that. Even when was it? Where he was it yesterday? What was it? He saw us out in public, and he was like,
Yes.
"You guys are kissing in public."
Yes.
And he's like, "You're not supposed to do that." This is when we were picking them up from school.
School.
Yes.
Aw.
You're not. The FBI, the police is gonna catch you. They have cameras everywhere, and they're gonna catch you. And it's like, but they see it, and it's registered.
It's registered.
It's
They
registered.
sing.
So now they're not.
They're catching it.
You don't have to have per se conversations about it, because
'Cause
now
they
they know
already
this is what
saw
it
it.
looks like. This is what it looks like when two people completely
And
love each other and trust each other, and this is
This
what
is
it looks
so
like.
Yeah, my daughter, our
beautiful.
13-year-old, she had to be 10 or 11 at the time, and one of her schoolmates taught her the saying, love is love.
Love is love. That was a moment for us.
That was a eye-opener for us. And she said to us, she's like, oh, well, I think I'm gay. 10 years old. Love is love. And we pulled her aside and we were like, let's explain what love is. Because at 10 years old, you don't know what love is.
Absolutely.
So Dad pulled her aside. We pulled her aside. We had this long conversation with her. We defined all the types of love, everything. We thought the child.
And filial, and we get into
everything, because I'm like, at 10 years old, if you can tell me love is love and you can make a decision for your relationship saying this is what I am, then you need to know what you're committing to or what you're saying. I don't want you to go out there on social media and say I'm gay, but you don't know what gay is. And then when we explain what gay is, she's like, no, Mommy, of course that's not what I am. And I'm like,
You
okay.
see?
But then
That is really
a day
important.
later, she goes back and she's like talking to one of her little friends who supposedly is gay too. And these are 10-year-olds.
10-year-olds.
10 years.
10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And she's telling her friend is telling her, oh, you know what? I told my parents that I was gay, and they said, oh, it's just feelings for right now. You'll get over it. It's just hormones. You'll get over it.
Wrong.
And then she was just like, you know what? Yeah, my dad's not on board either with the whole gay thing. You know, I try to tell him I'm gay, and my dad gives me this Howard speech about love. And she was like, you know what? The Christian in him wouldn't let him accept being gay. And I'm like screenshotting and sending it to him. I'm like, look at your child. After this hour-long conversation we done have with her, she was like, oh, the Christian in him wouldn't let him understand. And I'm just sitting there like, Lord, this generation.
Yes.
This generation.
What are we going to do?
You have to give them information sooner, and they have to see the information playing out in front of them.
Yes.
If they don't see the information playing out in front of them, then they look at you as being a hypocrite.
But you
see
know
what I'm
what? At
saying?
13 now, that conversation is so different. If you sit down and talk to her now, it's like a whole different person.
Yeah.
Because that Christian in him wouldn't let him understand. All of a sudden, it's still in her head. So now she can distinguish between what's gay, because Mom gave me the definition of what's gay, or what it means to have all these pronouns and what these children
The pronouns,
have today.
yeah, him, she, her, whatever. Sometimes.
I mean, that conversation now looks different because she has people in her life who's willing to step out. And it's not just us. My sisters are really close with her. So when they have these conversations, she might not relate to me at the time, But I shared with my sister and, her auntie who she's close to have a totally different perspective and say it the same way I would have said it, but she got it from her. Because at the time, it's just, mom and dad is just hating, as they say today.
Do we have any question? Not yet, okay.
But that's it.
That is
Intimacy
beautiful.
it's different on so many levels. But once, like you said, it always takes a conversation for the couple that's going through it. If you said, you find out what my love language is, I find out what your needs are, and we come together and say, okay, we're going to try this. For me and him, I think it was a little bit more difficult in the beginning for me because he had more sexual experience than I did. When I came into our relationship, I had just lost my virginity, and it was just one time. So, and I broke off that relationship right away. So when I came into our relationship, he was it for me. And he came in with a whole lot more experience than I did.
Whole lot of baggage.
And I had to figure out at the time, like, he will go off of his experience, and I'm just going off of my one experience. And I had to, like, tell him at one point, I'm like, sir, no, this is not working for me. This is not what I experienced before. So I'm like, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to grow. But we're going to have to go at my pace. And he was willing to do that. And we got to the point where we were comfortable talking to each other about.
Absolutely. That is beautiful.
And you have to be, especially it's like coming from conservative backgrounds. I know African background is kind of similar to, well, I should say, well, y'all are the first. So island background is the same as African background.
Yes.
We came from
Africa.
Africa.
Yep.
And it's very conservative, and talking about sex is taboo.
Oh.
Yes.
So that's taboo. So coming into relationship, I think a lot of couples are doing themselves an injustice by not talking about it. Now, given that, take the pendulum the other way, and in America, it's just like no sacredness.
No boundaries.
None.
But there had to be, right?
They have to be. They have to be, because it's like God made this thing beautiful, but he made it for marriage.
Yes, absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
And I always tell even the kids at church, I tell them, hey, the ones who speak the lingo, don't go around collecting bodies or running up your number count. I said, at the end of the day, you have to realize that you're losing your virtue every time. It's taken away from your virtue. Right? In the islands, it was important for the girls to be virgin, but the guys are not. And I'm like, how does this math work? For a guy not to be a virgin, he has to have sex with a girl. So how do you want
And church played a big part of it. Church was such a big part of sex, period. Like if you was having sex at church and you weren't married, it was the ultimate sin. Because I know, especially like for Adventist religion back home, like I said, it's very strict, it's very conservative. So like when I was the first Adventist in my family. Well, second, my aunt was, but she wasn't close to our family. But I became the first Adventist in my family. And the moment, like, my family back home heard that I became an Adventist, they was like, okay, so is she having a baby? When's the wedding? Like, like what happened? Is she pregnant? Is another guy's Adventist? Is she pregnant? And I'm just like, no. But it comes out, sex in the church. It's like, you had to be like, if I was pregnant and not married in the church, I had to get married that day before I had the baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, that's that old foundation. But it needs to be talked about, especially to them, because I always say, if we're not doing it, the devil is doing it.
Oops.
And just guess what? He's not telling them what it is. He's giving them the
if we're not doing it, the devil is doing
it. He's looking for these spaces. So if we're not talking to our kids about intimacy and romance and what right relationship look like, and not showing them, the devil got it. He got Facebook, he got WhatsApp, he got
TikTok,
Instagram, all the social media. X and all of that.
Everything.
What Truth Social and all of that. to get into your house and into your kids. But again, let's bring it back to the intimacy. It has to really be like husbands and wife have the conversation, talk about it. Some people they go into role plays and stuff like that.
Yeah, make
your bedroom an exciting part, man.
Yeah.
Soup up the bedroom, man. Soup it up. Soup it up, man. This is you. This is your spouse.
And sex is beautiful because if it's done in the context.
Let me tell you a little secret.
Okay.
Well, for me, when we were involved in a sexual relationship before marriage, and it was always something that I felt like I had to hide when I'm doing it, right?
I'm happy you're going down.
After I got married, sex was so comfortable for me. Like after a relationship, you know, like I go under the sheets and cover up and stuff like that. This is before marriage. And then after marriage, it was just like natural. And I was just like, God already knew.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to feel like I'm hiding and doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. Like sex supposed to be free.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to have this freedom
joy.
after doing this, joy after doing it.
Connection.
Yes. And I'm just like,
connection, just loving on each other.
Yes.
Because a lot of times we're so busy with so many things, and then you have the woman is tired, the man is tired, and tired today, tired tomorrow. There's no spiciness, there's nothing. And then 10 years down the road, they're looking back and they've missed a lot. And you see the marriage is dry.
It's dry.
There's no connection.
Now, here goes the other thing.
Yeah.
Intimacy is not only about sex.
Yeah.
It could be like you say, we're both tired.
Yeah.
So tonight we're just going to hug
each other.
And we're going to fall asleep. You know what I mean? And then we're gonna wake up and my arm might be sore because you slept on my arm all night. But you know,
but that's
okay.
a sacrifice. You know? It's a sacrifice, right?
And that's all. That's all.
With him, I always say, you know, the saying, patience is a virtue. And then I realized after marriage, he was working. I mean, he still is working 2 jobs, but there were days when he was gone 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Sunday through Friday.
Wow.
So it was to the point where my oldest daughter, which is 13 now, she's 6 at the time. And he would come home on Friday and just go straight to sleep because it's Sabbath and he just worked a 12-hour shift. So he's going straight to sleep. And it got to the point in our relationship where I was more satisfied laying down beside him, not having sex, nothing like that.
Just having his body.
Just his body.
Presence.
His presence. Yeah.
And that was intimacy for me for a long time until, his hours slowed up and stuff like that. And he always says to me, babe, sex is quality, not quantity. And it took me a minute to understand. But when we engaged and we became intimate and we did have sex, it was the quality of it. I was satisfied for I was good if I hadn't had sex for the rest of the month.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and my daughter said,
more often than once a month.
More often than once a month. But my daughter would be like, Dad, I have a concern. And she was like, well, are you and my mom beefing or something? Are y'all fighting? Like, why would you ask that? He was like, well, I only see you in your bed on Fridays.
Oh my gosh.
Because she sleeps when I get home. And by the time she's wake up, I'm gone.
You're gone.
So she don't see me except.
And that's her concern at 6 years old. Like, Mom and Dad, are y'all fighting?
They're looking.
Like,
they're looking.
Yes,
they're looking. Oh my God, this is so beautiful. Thank you for bringing up all this conversation. It's so enlightening, refreshing. And we're just saying these are matters in marriage.
Yes.
You need to talk about your finance. You need to talk about your communication. You need to talk about your intimacy. You have to talk about the vision. You need to talk about the problem when there's a problem. Divorce is not always this.
It's not an option.
It's not the solution.
It's not.
It's not. And you did mention something. You said we don't budget for divorce.
Yes, that's before we came live.
Yeah.
It's I was explaining to Dr. Christine. It's we grow up, and especially girls, they have the doll houses, and they imagine in their lives. And so in their life, they imagine their wedding, they imagine how many kids they're gonna have.
Yep.
You know what kind of house gonna live in, the white picket fence, and all that.
I wasn't that girl.
Nobody never imagine, okay, after I accomplish all these things and I get divorced. But yes, divorce happens all the time.
Talk to us.
But
How do we get there?
The problem. It wasn't initially the thing. So my thing is, except when it comes to situations, I'm gonna go a little biblical with adultery and abuse. And on both cases, there is no repentance. See, they could be abused, but abuse could stop, and you could regain
that confidence and the trust.
Exactly.
And build the relationship back.
They could be cheating, and you could stop and slowly build back the relationship and the trust.
That's the commitment between the two.
Right. But if the abuse, if you're in a relationship where your life is about to be ended, you get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in a situation where the dude, he just need multiple partners, and you go ahead, get out of there. But at least go down the road of trying to resolve those situations before divorce.
Absolutely.
And that's the only two areas I would recommend divorcing is abuse, and of course, well, cheating. Continual cheating is still that's still abuse. You know, I always say you wouldn't like that done to you.
Yeah.
Kind of like do unto others like you like them to
do unto
so
you.
You don't want to do that. But you know, and the thing about it, even with cheating, you also, a lot of people, and this is probably gonna light up the online conversation a little bit, but both people played a role in that. Both people played a role in that. When somebody,
how come?
Okay, let's just make a fictitious example.
Yeah.
Right. A husband cheats on his wife.
Okay.
Right. It was probably because there was something that was missing in the relationship that nobody talked about. So she doesn't even know it's missing. That drove him to that. Right. He's not 100% committed. They haven't grown together. Like right now, we've been married for 16 years. I don't know if I said that, but I don't even imagine myself without her.
Oh.
So the question she always asks me is like, "You gonna marry me again?" And I'm like, "Nope, absolutely not." Because she don't understand. For me to marry you again means we have to break up. And I always just put it out there. Well, you need to marry me. No, we renewed our 16. We are 16 years in, and we renewed our vows.
Oh,
the same
wow.
time my parents were renewing their
vows. I know we were supposed to come to the renewal, but we couldn't make it. Okay. Yeah.
But no, it's like, no, because again, like I said, divorce is not an option unless there's abuse. Right? So you have to figure out once that abuse happened or the
adultery
conflict happened, what role did you have to play in that? You have to own up to your part. I literally know people who are going through divorce right now because, like you gave that other example of the woman wasn't getting her needs met. Stepped out, same thing.
Yeah, that was exact situation. We had a couple of friends of ours. The man, he stepped out and he cheated, and when he came back, you know, he was caught. And then when he came back, he said, because we weren't having a relationship or we weren't having sex, so I had to go get it somewhere else. So, but imagine what that conversation would have looked like before you stepped out.
Yeah, have the conversation. This is one of my needs that you're not meeting. This is, like they say, my basic instinct that is not being met. So before you step out, have that conversation. You know.
So if you have that conversation, the person is willing to change.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's abuse. Because when we're talking about it and you're not doing anything to change it. But I'm telling you, this hurts. The shoe's not fitting anymore. You're still trying to put it on my feet. It's not. This hurts. So you have to have that conversation. And I know all your guests already spoke about how important in marriage communication is, right? But yeah, you have to.
Some conversation can be difficult.
Yes.
But then we have to have it.
You know,
but if you don't even want to have it, you know, ask for help. Like, step out there. There's people out there that just specializes in just marriage counseling. Just ask for help. So even if I'm not willing to, if I know that, hey, we're not having sex and I'm at the point where I'm going to just go out and get it from somewhere. And that conversation is a difficult conversation for us. You have to put it in your heart. If you know in your heart that you want to make this marriage work, you have to go and find those resources. You don't just go and do the act and say, okay, I'm satisfied. Let me just go back on home. Everything's going to be all right.
Yes.
But then when you try to work it out, your excuse is, oh, I wasn't getting it from you, so let me just go. Yeah. But no, I really want to be with you. But we weren't having sex, so let me just go out there.
See, the thing is, you cannot look for what you need in your marriage outside of your marriage. It's better to live with the guilt of having the conversation.
Yeah. Than
the
other way around.
The guilt over choose guilt over resentment. Because now this person resents you or whatever. You're going down this path to divorce because you didn't choose the guilt of saying, I'm not happy.
Our time is fast spent.
Our time fast spent.
I know.
I wanted to get into conflict resolution.
5 minutes. Let's do it. Let's do it, right?
5 minutes.
Let's talk about it.
So when it comes to conflicts.
Yes.
And
I was actually going to ask, have you guys have like a major conflict and how did you resolve it?
So we have fallouts. We had fallouts
I
before.
won't say nothing major though.
Yeah. It's even when I think it's major, she doesn't think it's major.
Me too. I'm like that. I'm just like, we're in this for a long haul. So there's no conflict that is big. We just have to resolve it.
Yes.
So when it comes to conflicts, it's like you have to really, again, take ownership of your part of the conflict. And that's everybody wants to push blame and push blame and push blame.
You made me do it.
Yes.
That is the Adam solution.
Right.
You made me do it. It's the woman you gave me. So you did it. It's your fault. It's not my fault.
Yeah. But take ownership of your part of this argument. And then you have to ask yourself, the one important question that I always ask is like, what is she really saying? What is she saying to me right now?
So beyond all the noise and everything, what is the undertone message?
What is she saying? What is she trying to say? What is she trying to communicate? Right? And once you get to that point where the person is yelling and they're cussing and you have to look through all the swear words and stuff to find out. So what you're really saying is,
I need your attention.
Right. Or what you're really saying is, you don't like the color of the sheets. That's how simple it ended up being. This is how simple it when you. Like I said, I was on the phone with our friends for about an hour this morning, and all it came down to was a matter in finances. All it came down to was, I want him to stop shopping. And swear words are flying this way, and I'm done, and this is that, and it's just like, listen, get past the noise and see what the person is really asking. Okay, now you figure out what the person is asking. Think about my role. What am I contributing?
And you know what he used to do? What he used to do was that what he used to do is he would give me the silent treatment. And I had to learn what the silent treatment was for him. And the silent treatment for him was walking away to understand what I'm thinking. To process to what I'm saying. And I used to get even more upset.
Exactly, because I was getting ready to say that.
Are you really giving me the silent treatment right now?
I want you to say something.
Right.
Am I talking to you? I mean, say something.
Say something. At one time, he went as long as a week. And I was like, wait, are we done? Like, what is happening?
So have you asked a question like, are we done like that?
Yeah, I'm like.
Oh, my Jesus.
And I always tell him, I was like, look. You don't have to cheat. You don't have to go do nothing. If you wake up one morning and decide that I'm not it, then you just let's just have that conversation. and be done.
So is from all the guests I've gotten, a lot of time is the women. We are the one that first of all say, "Are you done? Or is this marriage done?" And then it takes a man that is rock solid to say, "Honey, we're not done. This is just like a pebble in the on the way."
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a wave in the sea.
Thank you.
You know, let me understand it, and once I understand it, and then now I could come back. Now that first of all, you have to get the emotions out. Because women are very emotional. So even when she is like going off and I see that anger in her face, I usually just pull back and let that emotion go away. And I always say it's emotions are easy. It's like hunger. I'm hungry. I'm cold. It's an emotion. It's going to pass. Once the emotion is past, then you could have the conversation. And now I could look, what did I contribute to that conversation? What did I contribute to get her there? And then once I figure out my contribution, then it's like, okay, so this is what I did. This is what I did wrong. Now we could have the conversation, and I could pull back, and I could say, okay, honey, now I understand why you were so upset. Something that came up, and we probably have to end on this.
Yeah,
I see everybody moving around. It was, when did I send you that text about, we were doing our budget, and I told her there's no money in the budget for clothes.
Yes.
There's no money in the budget for clothes. And then I look on my Every Dollar app. For those who have taken the Dave Ramsey program, we have the Every Dollar app. I look on the Every Dollar app and I see $325 at KNG. My blood boils. Because I already said
no money for clothes.
You didn't say it for December.
We're talking about the December budget. There is no money for clothes. In fact, because my wife has, my parents are old, so she said, hey, it's time to upgrade the house and move them in. That's all her idea. And I spoke to Pastor, and I'm like, Pastor, I don't know about moving my parents in. It's two different generations. They don't like our parenting style. And, you know. So I was like, hey, let's see how it is to run the budget on just her income while I use my income to upgrade the house and to do. So December budget is done. I see that $325. I'm like, so immediately I want to go in, right? But then, having grown and having the information and the experience of 16 years, it's like, okay, how do I say this without coming across
angry,
right? Because you have to understand, once somebody gets angry, the other person puts up a wall. They don't. They're not interested in what you have to say, right? So how do I get this across without getting angry, right? So then it all becomes now the words I use. Hey, I'm trying to think of how I said it. Is it reasonable for me to expect you not to spend money on clothes in any given month? Or should I lower my expectations? And she said, lower your expectations.
I did. I told him lower your expectations because I said the clothing item in your budget. We have 3 growing kids. It's unpredictable of whether I'm gonna buy clothes today or I'm gonna wait till next month.
Because they're growing.
They had a concert today, and they needed something special to wear that they didn't have. So I had to go buy something for them to wear. It's unpredictable.
It's a conversation.
So it's a conversation. And I mean, I could have, just blow up at him and say, forget it. But whatever, man.
You can see how tense it could have gotten.
Yeah.
But with the right language and with really trying to get your point across without all the emotional baggage, choose the right words, get your point across, you get a better result. Because now I know I cannot put 0 for clothing in the budget.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
To somebody.
Yes. So, in nutshell, I want you to give like your final words to couple who are like struggling now. They say he's not listening, she's not listening. We're not seeing eye to eye. I think we're gonna go off and just cut it quick. So, just in nutshell, what will you say?
Have a conversation. Be willing to have a conversation.
And you?
I would say choose guilt over resentment every single time. Listen, it's like the thing is, most of these problems come because the person is not listening. Y'all are not listening, right? There is no one-sided argument for there to be argument, you have to have two sides. So you also have to look at what is my contribution to what this person. Listen, I mean, you just get past the noise. Get past the noise. Open up your ears. Open up your heart. Open up your eyes. Like they say, hair with your eyes. Even you look at that body language and look at see what's being, and then figure out what your part is, what your contribution is. And after understanding the situation, use the right words to, I want to say, disarm the other person and let them say, hey, is this what you want? Or ask questions. A lot of men don't like to ask questions because we want the woman to just submit. But ask questions. Okay, honey, are you saying X, Y, Z, and the third? Are you asking, okay, hey, can you clean the bathroom? I ain't cleaning the bathroom. I'm the guy. You're the woman. You should clean the bathroom.
Yeah.
But are you saying you're too busy to clean the bathroom? Yeah. Ask questions. Ask more questions. Don't just go to a position and ask questions. Come to an understanding, and then after you've come to that understanding, then you could take it from there, and you could be again united on the same page. That oneness. We need to achieve that oneness. It's not a negotiation if one side gets everything and the other side does not. In a negotiation, both sides.
You have to be a win-win situation.
It has to be a win-win, and you have to bring it to
go back to that biblical foundation.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, my wonderful sister. Thank you, my brother. It's been a wonderful conversation. I believe you have learned one or two things from this couple. Please, 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 marriage is beautiful. God ordained marriage, and He wants your marriage to be successful. Before you file in that number, before you file in the court, please seek solution and be willing, be patient with one another also. It's Christmas season. You don't have to break the bank, but you can do simple things for each other to show appreciation. By the special grace of God,
matters in the marriage. Let's talk about it. Matters in the marriage. Let's talk about it. By Dr. Christiana Akede. Let's talk about it. By Dr. Christiana